Hey, I'm Jess Puddister, and this is Walking the Walk, a podcast about climate action in Newfoundland and Labrador. Basques really understands extreme weather. Record high winds, coastal erosion, and storm surges are regular occurrences. Staff and council know that climate change is making it worse, and that their own contributions aren't helping. So they're making it a priority to reduce their greenhouse gases. By switching from furnaces to heat pumps and improving the efficiency of building envelopes in the town's sports complex and fire hall, Basques will slash the carbon emissions from their buildings by 80%. In this week's episode, I talked to Town Manager Leon MacIsaac from Basques. He's worked on the back end of town planning, engineering, and administration for decades across the province. We all want things that improve our quality of life. Parks, good roads, and reliable drinking water. But things we need to protect us from the impacts of climate change don't always bring immediate gratification. There's a gap between what town managers know has to happen and what residents would like to see. It is possible to close the gap, and people like Leon are working hard to make that happen. Just a note, this is a COVID-era podcast, so you'll hear some noises from Leon's office where we reached him. Hey Leon, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. So tell me a little bit about your role over with the town of Basques.
I am the town manager in town channel Basques. I started with town in early 2017 after spending approximately 30 years on the East Coast with City of St. John's, Town of Paradise, and private consulting business as well. And I'll be with them for the next, I won't say exact number of years, but till I retire in the near future.
So as town manager, maybe you could give a little bit of a background for our listeners on, what Basques is all about. Set the scene for us. What's it like over there?
Well, the town of Basques has a population of approximately 4,000 people. One of the major employers here is Marine Atlantic, with the ferry terminal as the main entry point to Newfoundland. That's kind of ingrained into the Constitution of Canada. Also in town, there's a number of business employers and industries as well. Due to its location on the southwest coast, it's the regional hub for the area, which runs from the South Branch Colebrook area down to Rose Blanche Petites area. So that encompasses approximately another 4,500 people in the outlying areas, which are adjacent municipalities, small municipalities, local service districts and such. And as the regional hub, the next area closest to here would be Stephenville or Cornerbrook as well, right? But just due to the area where we are in the Red Coast area in the region, it does create some logistics with traveling, of course, and then you get power interruptions. So it's all part and parcel of living in the area, I guess.
So I think, when a lot of people think about the Basque area and like Rec House, there's some pretty wild weather over that way. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the impacts that you guys are already seeing and, maybe what's in store down the line as climate change starts to ramp up?
Sure. Climate change is happening now. There's no doubt about that. The winds seem to be much more severe. I grew up in here. I haven't gone for a number of years, but I know the winds now, they seem to be much more frequent, much more severe. Wave action, seas are higher, or they appear to be. I shouldn't say they are. That's not, there hasn't been any real documentation, I don't think, in the area, but certainly the storm surge, the amount of erosion happening on the shoreline, the tides and wave action are slowly eroding the shoreline where you don't have a lot of heavy rock, but fortunately in Basques there's a lot of rock shoreline, so the erosion is not so noticeable here, but certainly up along the coasts where there's a number of beaches which stretch from here to the McDougall's area, a lot of very nice beaches, and they've seen a fair bit of erosion over the year, but really depends on the wind and the the time of the year. You may get a lot of sand movement and embankment washway through the winter, and when you get the summer storms, a lot of that sand gets replaced again, so it's sort of a rotating effect. But the wind's certainly stronger. A lot of our winds are 100 plus. 100 kilometer an hour winds doesn't faze too many people in this area. They consider that close drying weather at 100 clicks. In the town here, we've seen winds clock in excess of 160. Not very often. In Wreck House, that's more typical. But winds in the Wreck House have been, the highest reading I think is 182, and it stops reading at 182, but it's gone well above that with the wind gusts as well. So the winds are certainly quite high there, right?
So Leon, what does that mean for the town in terms of, the town's need to maintain infrastructure and deliver services and all that, as well? What does it mean for community members?
Well, with the wind and severe weather, of course, we've been working very well with Newfoundland Power, Newfoundland Hydro. There's a new transmission line from Emira that came across from Nova Scotia. That's emergency backup power to the Bottom Brook substation in by Stephenville area. And then there's transmission lines. Those are the main lines that feed back this way, which are a series of aluminum towers and wooden pole power transmission. But due to the high winds, those wires and spans can be problematic, which Newfoundland Power and Newfoundland Hydro are working through. And when you get high winds, you're also getting a lot of salt air moving through, so that gets displaced on lines, and that can be problematic as well. Now, in saying that, on the southwest coast, the town requires approximately 20 megawatts of power to operate. Backup power systems, approximately 12 megawatts, located at the substation outside of town. We are very fortunate in the town to have that backup power. It'll keep the hospital, a lot of business online, and Newfoundland Power has put in a lot of different switches so that power can be rotated through town, especially in the winter months when power sharing can be made possible for the residents. And there's also a large generation station down towards Rose Blanche that they can bring online. I think that produces another, I think it's 8 megawatts or 10 megawatts power for that particular area down there. And unless right now we haven't had a lot of freezing rain in the last number of years, but I would expect if we do get a fairly heavy freezing rain portion, that would be problematic. But we are prepared as we possibly can with warming stations and backup power generation for residents in the event of any interruption during storm activity result of inclement weather.
So you guys have been participating in the FCM T2050 project with Fundamental Inc.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about, some of the things that you guys have learned through that project and some of the work that's now going to be happening as a result of that?
Yes, we initially got involved in the project as a partnership with other communities to try to bring about change to our current infrastructure. A lot of our older buildings, of course, running on diesel fuel, and try and convert over to clean energy where possible through heat pumps, energy conservation, through upgrades and installation, changes, trying to eliminate any kind of fossil fuels where possible. We've been trying to move through with Tier 4 engine systems on our equipment.
Tier 4 engine systems are a next generation of emission standards for diesel engines that are way better for air quality.
To give a cleaner burning diesel fuel system on our equipment. We're trying to move forward in that regard as well, trying to alternate energy sources either through solar power. Of course, wind power is available in the region. Just try to find a way to harness it. I did know a short while ago that there is a company, I think it's based in Italy, to use a vibrating wind system. It's only available commercially, but that would certainly be, rather than your typical turbine, that would certainly be put to be good use in this area for sure, because there's more than enough frequent wind to generate energy through the vibration of those type of systems. And just due to the general climate, Port aux Basques does get fog, but it does get quite a few sunny days, of course. And I say for anybody that does enjoy the weather in Port aux Basques, 15-minute drive west will get you to the Condrey Valley, where you'll get lots of sunshine. And as I say, it is windy there as well, but it's a good climate for area residents, and a lot of residents in town typically head to the Condrey Valley on the weekend to enjoy their summer weather where possible.
Super cool. So Leon, if you look into the crystal ball for a second and think about Port aux Basques, say by mid-century, by 2050, how do you think that the town will be standing at that point in time with respect to resiliency to climate change?
A lot of infrastructure in this town is fairly aged, as is with a lot of municipalities. The town has made fairly good progression towards just the surface environments with the asphalt curb gutter system and the catch basins and manholes to make sure they're kept up to date. Not necessarily is achieving the result right now, but residents like to see something on the surface more so. They don't realize what the underground infrastructure impacts are. Mm-hmm. We have just recently completed phase 1 of our Grand Bay Bottom sanitary sewer upgrade system, which will be taking a lot of untreated outfalls and turning into a treatment system, primary and secondary. That will encompass 8 phases. We've just completed phase 1. We're moving into phase 2 in order to meet federal requirements. So that'll go towards saving the amount of untreated sanitary waste entering the surrounding Atlantic Ocean. There's also a number of changes we'll have to make to our storm sewer system, upgrade for the heavier rainfall that we've been experiencing throughout the year.
Fun fact, by mid-century, Port aux Basques, like the entire island of Newfoundland, is projected to have wetter, more intense storms and more of them. A 3-day storm in autumn, for example, will bring 10 millimeters more rain by mid-century and 20 millimeters more by the end of the century.
We'll be replacing that with a HDPE system, it's high-density polyurethane. It has a very long lifeline, but it'll also, by increasing that, it'll minimize any possibility of flooding or adverse events on surrounding systems. Generally, if you get damage to infrastructure, typically is attributed to undersized pipes when you look at the 1 to 25 or 1 to 100 year flood risk areas.
That's right, yeah.
Here in Newfoundland, typically it's been designed 125 meets standards, but a lot of municipalities are moving towards that 1 in 100 year system.
The 1 in 25 year storm that Leon is talking about is projected to increase drastically in the coming decades. Remember Hurricane Igor in 2010? That was a 1 in 100 year storm. This kind of storm can be expected to touch down every 10 to 25 years by the end of this century. We need to make sure our infrastructure is designed according to the most up-to-date projections.
Because they seem to be happening much more frequently. It's not 1 in 100 years anymore. It seems like it's every couple of years you're getting that major event. And as a result, you need to take a hard look at your systems to see where improvements need to be made to minimize impact on infrastructure. Because if you don't upgrade and maintain it, you're going to get into a financial predicament where you're going to have to make a tough choice of what you're going to do if you don't move forward.
And what do you see, in terms of barriers? You've talked about a lot of really cool things and important things that need to happen. And like you mentioned, actually save money in the long run if they're addressed up front. Do you see any kind of issues with actually attaining those goals? Anything in the way?
Well, the biggest stumbling block is always funding. If you can get provincial and federal funding, of course the municipality has to contribute a portion of that funding as well. How much funding that you come up with, I guess, really depends on the funding split between federal, provincial, and municipalities. And of course, municipality can only assume so much debt, so it has to be planned in a number of years and planned properly, because you don't want to take out so much debt that you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, I guess is the way to put it. Don't take on so much debt that you just can't possibly pay it off as well, right?
Absolutely.
And the best way to address that is to, like say, proper planning, take a look at your assets, find out what needs to be done, see how you conserve money, and then encompass that into a strategic plan for the town to address its needs and wants for future as well, right? Don't plan just for 1-2 years, and multi-year plan is what you need.
So it sounds to me like you're really taking like a comprehensive asset management approach to looking at these different issues and solutions.
Yeah, so you have to. I'd like to be here long enough to at least get it implemented. I'm sure I won't be here to see it fulfilled, but to make as much positive change as I can and offer what I'm able to provide in the time frame while I'm here, so that next person coming in has got a guideline that they can move forward on, if they choose to move in that same direction, of course. But I would hope that any guidelines set by myself and current council will be a blueprint for a go-forward basis for anyone coming in.
Absolutely. And Leon, before you arrived in your position, was there any kind of asset management planning in place at that time? Or were there any kind of strategies or policies in place to address climate change, or were you kind of starting from scratch?
There was some policy in place here. I mean, predecessors had been making some steps toward it. They weren't really familiar with the system, I don't believe, but I can't prejudge because I haven't had a lot of discussion on previous councils with that regard. It's always been put forth as a promotion to towns and municipalities. And again, it could only move forward with the amount of funding made available. So that's always a stumbling block. It's not that they didn't want to do it. It's always cost prohibitive whenever you move in that area as well, right?
Well, it sounds like the town is in good hands. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen over the coming years and how the projects that were, really spurred on by the T2050 project will roll out. And hopefully I can come for a visit maybe next summer and see what's going on.
Sure. I say we're always moving forward. We always get our eyes open for any kind of funding that would be typically referred to as free funding, or to the best part, close to free as we possibly can get. And make sure it has an impact to the benefit of community members as well, right? Any decisions that council makes is in the best interest of residents where possible. Sometimes it may not appear that way to residents, but it certainly is. I would not think that anybody on current council or predecessors have made for their own personal enjoyment, while residents may not realize it. It's always decisions are made for the better of everyone, not for a single person. And that's the way it should be.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Leon. This is really, really cool. It's great to learn about what's going on in Port aux Basques. That's our episode this week. It was produced by Luke Quinton of Electric Ocean and me, Jess Puddister. Thanks to Leon MacIsaac, our guest, and Ashley Smith, Managing Director of Fundamental Inc. Our theme music is Visions of This Earth Before Our Time by Botany, courtesy Western Vinyl. This project was made possible through a grant from the T2050 initiative, in partnership with the Newfoundland and Labrador Environmental Industries Association. The Transition 2050 initiative is offered through the Municipalities for Climate Innovation program, which is delivered by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and funded by the Government of Canada. This initiative contributes to the FCM-ICLEI Partners for Climate Protection program to help municipalities reduce greenhouse gas emissions and take action on climate change. PCP is a partnership between FCM and ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability.